I would like to thank the organizers for giving me an opportunity to present my views on futuristic education. I have served the academia for 30 years and mainly higher education. Therefore, my topic in particular is the future of higher education in India. I would like to begin by tracing the etymological roots of the term education. The term comes from the Latin term educare, which means to train or mold. And yes, as academicians, we do train and mold the future generations for prospective careers. However, we also need to serve more broad-based functions other than just the skill and the knowledge specificity, such as looking at the cultures, the contexts, and the systems that we are a part of, the roles and the responsibilities, the transformations that are taking place in the world and responding to them, character refinement, inculcation of values, and therefore everything that goes under the umbrella of holistic education. The question that I would like to address is, are institutions in higher education really fostering holistic development, and what is the road ahead? If we look at the landscape of higher education in India, there have been radical transformations. We have 1,000 universities and 40,000 colleges. And in that we have central universities, state universities, deemed universities, institutes of national eminence. We are still lagging behind when it comes to the international scene, especially when it comes to China as well as US. In terms of the international ranking agencies, we still have to be recognized as world-class universities. So why is it that we are lagging behind? India is a country which has enjoyed a golden period in education, mainly with the Gurukula system, where the student was not really a student, he was more of a disciple, following the guru, understanding the ins and outs of life, whether it is the daily chores or whether it is astronomy, archery, and things like that. That led to the so-called holistic development. In recent times, we've also had universities like Nalanda, Takshashila, Shantiniketan, and Vishwabharatis, which have been epitomes of excellence. Because there has been a kind of an overall learning. Students have been exposed to different kinds of subjects, whether it is arts, whether it is science, whether things in management, and even University of Mumbai for that matter, till a certain point of time, was absolutely way ahead in terms of its learning. Somewhere this got disrupted, and we need to understand that what were the forces which brought about the changes in terms of curriculum and pedagogy. Curriculum can be looked upon as different kinds of courses, the juxtaposition of courses, and pedagogy can be looked upon as teaching learning practices. These have been borrowed from the West. With the infiltration of the colonial rule, the so-called rich heritage, indigenous heritage that we enjoyed, that was so much seeped into our culture, has been disrupted by the colonial rule. And there was a system that came in place with a different medium of instruction that did become, a window to the global world. But what did it do to the curriculum and the pedagogy? We have our courses, our programs being fragmented and segmented. Like there was compartmentalization into arts, science, commerce, and engineering. And students began to make their choices, purely career-based choices, mainly because of their parents or because of their friends, because of the media, and all other things, but not really their interest. This entire structure and the modes of delivery that followed have been borrowed from the West. And therefore, what happens to true learning? That is a very big question that needs to be raised through this particular discourse. And therefore, if you go to see, the National Education Policy 2020 speaks about holistic and multidisciplinary learning. In other words, the so-called liberal arts. Banabhatta's Kadambari, which has been referred to in the National Education Policy, speaks about good education as being a mastery of 64 kalas or arts as they are called, trying to go in through or rather experiment with different permutations and combinations. And that is what true learning is supposed to be. Within this kind of a framework, I do not mean to say that we should be deviating from the paradigms that are laid down by regulatory frameworks. Of course, we need to follow them. But what we can do is we can have knowledge-based paradigm which can be constructed around different kinds of courses that the students can engage in, and that can be translated into an effective student experience. While he can be doing a course in humanities and social sciences, he can also be dabbling in a course in management, can be doing the same maybe in performing arts, maybe doing the same thing with regard to visual arts, and the list is endless, because everybody out here, and I'm sure that you people will agree with me, that education is a very broad umbrella. While they can be going through this entire, the plethora of courses, they can yet narrow down to a specialization of their choice. Within this paradigm, there can be a fusion of skills, there can be existential learning, and there can be experiential learning. And let me give you examples. In skills, communication skills, all your skills that we call the 21st century skills, whether it is communication, whether it is critical thinking, whether it is creativity, whether it is problem solving, we can have different kinds of courses that the students can be exposed to. More than that, and I will also be speaking about it in the next few minutes, wherein I will be talking about the role of technology. There are a number of IT-related skills also which can be incorporated. The knowledge paradigm then can be fused with the choices which the students can make after they go through a series of courses and thereby understand what exactly their true calling is. When it comes to experiential learning, these are basically immersive experiences. John Dewey has been a very, very strong advocate of learning by doing. And there have been many other scholars also who have been major proponents of this. It is using the heart, the hands, and also the brains. So with immersive experiences that translate into going to the field, working and having hands-on experience. It can be a simple experience as with a camera for mass communication students. It can be any other experience like going to the NGOs or visiting different heritage sites and understanding what is the socio-cultural, historical background of these places, the lives that indigenous people lead. All this becomes mandatory. If you're dabbling in a course like law, you can also be providing legal aids, to the different kinds of villages, etc. This also becomes a part of an experiential experience. Existential experiences would be more of evolving experiences. I believe that we all organically evolve with the passage of time. And therefore, if we are talking about evolving, we need to go through some labs, where we come to understand who we are, where we are, and where do we wish to grow. Similarly, there can be leadership labs. I do not believe that leadership can be taught in the classroom unless we are there in those moments of criticality, understand what are the dynamics of teams and working with different sets of people with different personalities, understanding what are the criticalities of situations, crisis situations. Only then can a true leader emerge. So there can be labs, etc., which can be constructed to understand the true self. As a result of this kind of a paradigm that can be laid and which can be absolutely fundamental in changing us, we have different kinds of skills that we can be picking up. The so-called liberal skills, where we have the freedom of thought, the freedom of expression. And this brings to my mind Tagore's poem, where the mind is without fear, the head is held high. Into that heaven of freedom, my father, let my country awake. I do not mean to say that students should be revolting or rebelling against what is being taught. Of course, what is being taught somewhere becomes the norm, but students should have the freedom to express their opinions, not only opinions, but also their ideas, which are well rooted in evidence. Along with this, there has to be major exploration where they can go through a diversity that is there within life itself. And why should we forget our roots, our glorious roots of the past, where we have spoken about the Guru-Shishya relationship? Go back to that time, go back to your mentors. Do not treat your teachers just as teachers and embodiments of knowledge, but also as somebody who can mentor you through life itself, through different challenges that you would be facing. There has to be, like I said, immersive experiences and exploration of cultures, which would do a lot of value addition. The national education policy, in terms of the future outlook, also speaks about interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, and also transdisciplinary frameworks. What are these? If we adopt multidisciplinary frameworks, we will be using different perspectives to understand phenomena. If we look at interdisciplinary frameworks, we would be using tools and techniques and approaches adopted by other schools of thought in order to solve problems. And transdisciplinary is a beauty by itself because we would use different approaches and schools in order to create something new. So that is what the national education policy takes a leap into the future, and in order to make the educational experience an enriching one, speaks about this. I would like to take this opportunity to address the role of humanities and social sciences. In the post-independence period, where the country required major redevelopment, science and technology was required. Of course, it is required even today. But humanities and social sciences cannot take a backseat because people are at the epicenter of everything. Even technology cannot be understood without the human side. Design cannot be understood without the human side. Therefore, bringing humanities and social sciences, whether it is understanding the beauty of literature, whether it is understanding Ramayana from different perspectives, whether it is using sociology and using it as a medium to understand films, okay? I'll give you an example that there was a film that was released, Queen, some years back. Sociological frameworks were used to analyze the film. The discussions can be made extremely interesting. So when I come to discussions, it comes to the pedagogical practices. It cannot only be about the teacher and the taught, about the blackboard, the PowerPoint, and things like that. Somewhere we have to make the students react, and there has to be research-driven pedagogy. Make the students write response papers. Make them look at the good and the bad and the different shades that can be there to personalities as well as to problems. Let them adopt different kinds of frameworks, case studies, not only role plays, but there are different kinds of activities within all these frameworks that can be used, and that is where we need to be using our innovation. I would also like to mention about the role of technology. Artificial intelligence and big data have radically altered the course of human life and even our relationships at work. The old skills that we require definitely stand today, but along with that, there is a reskilling. We need to be adept with technology. And with COVID, definitely we have started embarking on that path. People have looked at the negative side of COVID, but it has also given us an exposure to technology by looking at online learning. However, we need to go further, and we need to understand how technology can be integrated with the curriculum. It can be done because, say for example, if we look at the big data, looking at data, analyzing the data can be used for understanding student satisfaction with a program or student satisfaction with a course. To this extent, courses can be integrated, like say for example, IT skills, or you may have data analytics, etc., which can be introduced in our paradigms. This reskilling is going to prove a lot, it's going to be doing a lot of good, as it is going to be lending another shade to our development. Students are no longer interested in just a mechanical, linear relationship with the teachers. Today, students are also interested in learning from each other and from learning from different sources. Personalized or customized learning can also play a pivotal role in the future of higher education. The last point that I would like to address is the internationalization of education. while we do emphasize in today's world that there has to be an immersion in our indigenous cultural experiences, and exposure to the global platforms is also extremely imperative, because students are going to be finding job opportunities the world around. Let me tell you that the new policy also permits the setting up of foreign universities within the country. While universities will be set up, while we might have different universities of eminence coming and gaining roots within our country, there are going to be challenges and there are going to be advantages. Our students are going to be exposed to the global arena, and they are going to be getting the best of it, in fact, getting opportunities to visit the outside world, to understand what global experiences are like, but it will pose a challenge for our own domestic universities. Now, that is something that we have to negotiate with. We have to understand that what is working, but yes, global as well as local, that is the in thing. I would like to conclude this particular talk by saying that definitely we are at the crossroads. There is a critical juncture, but the future is extremely optimistic, especially in the light of what I have said. George Curio from the Innovative Mindset has said that our job is not only to control the people we serve, but to unleash their talent. And therefore, in order for a student engagement translated into an effective student experience, we need to be extremely innovative, yet we can follow the paradigms. Thank you so much.